Was a good draw.
Good for you.
So,
Right. I've asked you to pick three of your sort of favourite tracks of the moment from unsigned bands. So, which one are you going to choose first?
the first one I'm gonna do, and it was so hard to narrow down because I have so many favorites, so it's so hard to pick. But I'm gonna go with a song by Mr. Susan, and the song is called "Bathrobes and Towels." But just before we get to that, besides being 16 and doing that sort of thing, I also have to mention, I'll find a picture and I'll show you. But I had hair down to about my shoulders, like long hair down my shoulders, and I had
Wow,
I had the John Lennon glasses too.
Fantastic.
The only difference is my lenses were twice as thick because I have like Hubble telescopes for glasses. So
Oh, you're going to have to tweet that. You
well,
have to tweet that.
I'll find the pic and put it up. But yeah, let me tell you, if you ever wonder what it's like to go drunk driving, just put my glasses on. So,
Oh god, yeah, that's going to be classic.
so here we go with the first song. This is Mr. Susan with Bathrobes and Towels. Dig this.
I am a guy with a high school education, and I wasn't a very good student. I am from the minimum wage working world. That was what I was doing before I joined Black Flag. I was earning $3.50 an hour scooping ice cream and taking inventory and making the nightly deposit at a Haagen-Dazs in Washington, D.C. I am basically equipped to park your car, sweep up after your pet, and put fries in a bag as you drive by a box on the side of a Wendy's. Young person, you'll find in your life that sometimes your great ambitions will be momentary momentarily stymied, thwarted, marginalized by those who were perhaps luckier, come from money, where more doors opened, where college was a given. It was not a student loan. It was something that Dad paid for. To where an ease and confidence in life was almost a birthright, where for you, it was a very hard climb. Okay, that happens all the time.
Right on. That was Bathrobes and Towels. Mr. Susan, definitely one of my favorite bands and one of my favorite songs. And like I said, for above anything, it's like great music, great lyrics, very catchy. Is the drum beat? Like always, I find myself tapping that because it's just such a cool thing. That it's one thing that I can kind of play, but I can't, and that's why I love listening to drummers because it always amazes me and just thinking of all the timing, everything that goes into it, how good these guys really are.
Well, I was going to say the underlying rhythm and the kind of jazz style to it I really love. And they use something which is called a xylosynth, which I've never even heard of before, I have to be honest. And I looked into it, and it was created in 1986 by a guy called Will Wernick, I think. And it was designed for an English pop band called the Drum Theatre. But what I found about that sort of side of it, it's just so unique, isn't it? It's so unusual, but I love the kind of punky feel anyway. I mean, it's very cool.
They are good guys. I've interviewed them twice, so.
I was going to say, you were talking about the Sex Pistols earlier.
Yeah.
One of their tracks, EMI,
yeah,
which is a really great track. Did you know that they were signed with EMI and it only lasted about 90 days before they got fired from the label? And that track is basically them kind of sticking their fingers up at EMI because they only signed them for the fame. Did you know that? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. That I've heard before, but there's also, I think, one of my favorites is they were playing on a boat pretty much going down the Thames, and they were playing God Save the Queen. Pretty much with fingers on, like going by this boat, like down the Thames. So no.
It's funny you were talking about the Sex Pistols because I've been listening to that recently in my car.
Oh, yeah, right on.
You have to remember when it gets to certain tracks, I better turn this down.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when you're near home.
I think one of my favorite tracks is Pretty Vacant.
Yeah. Very much.
Oh, because it's one of those things, and let's face it, Johnny Rotten, or AKA Johnny Lydon, like didn't have the best vocals, but it was powerful and it made you listen, and it was so easy to mimic too, right?
Yeah.
And such simple stuff, but that's what made them like so good, and just obviously the rebellion and just Johnny Rotten just being a flat out douche. So.
Right, I'm going to ask you a question now. Have you seen, right, you have to listen to the list.
Okay.
Have you seen any of the following live? Bryan Adams, Alanis Morissette, Celine Dion, Michael Bublé, Shania Twain, or Nickelback? Or are you going to admit any?
No, I would admit it, but no, I've not seen one of them. And Nickelback, I would never even waste my money.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of them at all. Like, I got my reasons, but I'm not a big fan. The others, Shania Twain is a great singer, but not in the country. Bryan Adams is just kind of cheesy, and I just nah.
Everything I do.
Yeah. See, Alanis Morissette, I actually would like to see. I would definitely go see her. I just never got a chance to. And quick fun fact about Alanis Morissette is Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters used to be the drummer for her band.
Ah.
That's where he came from. They picked up Taylor Hawkins from the Alanis Morissette's band.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of, this is actually tied into Taylor Hawkins. Is last week on NMS, I was talking about Stuart Copeland, the drummer for the Police. He's got a YouTube channel. I think we might have talked about this already. I can't remember. Anyways, point being, he's got a YouTube channel, and he has like a bunch of videos of different like artists and bands coming over and jamming at his place, because he's got all the instruments set up and that whole sort of thing. Because he did a song with Primus, and he did a song with Neil Peart, who's the drummer for Rush, Danny Carey, who's the drummer for Tool, and Les Claypool is the bassist and singer for Primus. But there's a new one, and it's Taylor Hawkins. It's Matt Stone, who's one of the creators of South Park.
Yeah.
The other guy's name is Chris Chaney. Chris Chaney is currently the bassist for Gene's Addiction, but he's like essentially a studio musician. But he's really good, and that jam was just really cool. And when I saw Matt Stone, I was like, I know that name. The thing is that the Matt Stone I'm thinking of, I was like, man, this guy can actually play some instruments. It's pretty cool, because pretty much Taylor Hawkins and Stuart Copeland are playing drums, and then there's a couple times Taylor Hawkins gets on a trumpet, and Matt Stone can play trumpet too, apparently, and it's really cool. So I was
just going to ask you, did he almost die in the UK?
Who?
Stuart Hawkins, you were talking about just then.
Taylor Hawkins?
Yeah, Taylor Hawkins, sorry.
I think that might have. Are you talking about during his drug binging and drinking?
Yeah. I don't know. Do you remember?
I'm trying to think. I know it came close. I think it might have been the UK. I'm not 100% on that, but I think you're right with that one. I'd have to Google it and check it out. But yeah. Okay, cool. So there you go.
Right. Okay. My next question is: when did you first have the idea of setting up your own radio show or internet radio show?
It was about 2.5 years ago. I'd always thought about it, because I was on the radio station at the high school I went to in the U.S.
Yeah. And
I kind of wanted to do it, but I never really went for it, just because it's very, very unstable. Meaning, like, it might take a lot. It might be really hard to find a job, and of course, just like any job, you're going to start off with the crappy shit, and that's understood. And that didn't bother me. But then I was thinking, like, oh, I don't want to be jumped around from station to station to station, and just from all the stories I've heard of people in the business, I just didn't want that part of it. And then one day, like, I was at work, it was on my phone, and I was on Twitter, actually, and there's a gentleman by the name of Alan Cross, and he's pretty much big-time music geek, but he's well-known in Canada, like, interviewed a lot of big bands. He's got his own kind of like a little newspaper sort of thing, like music newspaper, but majority of it's not too much indies, mainly like big name stuff. I was talking about this app on iPhone. It's like, oh, check it out. It's like, you know what, this is easy, so I'm gonna try this. And then I got into it, then it started getting better and better, and then like I just started expanding, and like.
So with your first show, do you know how many listeners you had?
Oh, no, nothing. No one.
Not friends.
Yeah, well, they weren't.
They're not included.
Yeah, but it's There's like there's no one listening at all. I was kind of taking a shot in the dark and kind of just going with it and just thinking like, well, it's posting on here, here, and here, then it should be all right. Maybe I'll get a listener eventually, and then kind of